Let's chat about this news about Vlatko Andonovski announcing his resignation. First of all, I just want to get your initial reaction to this. Was this something that you were anticipating?
I think everybody anticipated it after what happened at this year's World Cup. It just wasn't good enough for the United States. And I would say it wasn't good enough on a lot of levels. And unfortunately, if you're the head coach of that team and you're making the decisions as to how your team is going to set up, the decisions to not make substitutions, that falls on you, and you bear a lot of the responsibility. So we knew this was coming, whether it was them deciding to terminate his contract, but it says he's going to resign. So, I think Vlatko is one of the best coaches in NWSL. He will always be that. He has multiple NWSL championships. He was the leading candidate when the occupancy of this job happened a few years ago. So he was leading the charge there. But it also proves to me how difficult it can be to go from a club situation to a national team situation. It's a totally different ballgame when you talk about player management, how to create tactics in order to play against some of the best in the world. So I think that really poses an interesting question when you're thinking about what's going to be next for this U.S. women's national team and who could potentially lead the charge. But I'm looking at the whole organization because I feel like it's not good enough from the under 17 level, the under 20 level. We're seeing the team succeed at this World Cup, have success at those levels. So how do we implement a system that is going to, again, create the United States as the top tier in women's soccer internationally?
Jordan, we had Christine throw out a few names that she thinks are viable options to replace Vlatko, but what are some of the names that come to mind for you?
Yeah, those are all names that I think everybody's looking at. Sarina Wiegman and what she's done back-to-back with not just the Netherlands, but now with England doing the same thing, winning the Euros and now getting to the final. She's going to be a hard one to try to pick away if they end up winning the final for the World Cup on Sunday. I think Tony Gustafsson is a really good candidate because of what he did with the United States for a number of years as an assistant and the role that he played behind the scenes in really implementing a lot with this U.S. team under head coach Jill Ellis. She gave him a really good role. But Tony Gustafsson, what they've built in Australia, I don't think it's going to be easy to try to get him away from what is going on down under. This was a magical run by him and the squad, but I like the tactics that he implemented. I think on a club coaching standpoint, I just said it's a hard move. I do think Emma Hayes might be the leading candidate from a club coach standpoint. She's been at Chelsea now for 10 years. And they've had mad success. I think the only thing they have not won is that Champions League title, which she would love to win. But I think Emma Hayes she talks about being English, but really being formed in the United States. Like her thought process of like how she likes to live her life is very American. So I think she gives this good combination of football history and American culture that might fit well with the U.S. team. She's a winner, and I think that's what this team needs, a good player manager. I think she would be the top club candidate, but again, I'm going to go to a couple of names that are probably going to be off the rails here. I think Brandi Chastain needs to get in the mix some way, and then Tiffany Roberts-Sahaydak. Tiffany Roberts-Sahaydak was a 99er with Brandi Chastain. These two coaches, Brandi's coaching on various levels in California. Tiffany Sahaydak has been with UCF Central Florida for a number of years, 10 years, but also an assistant under Vlatko for a number of years. So I think, can we get these coaches with such winning knowledge in U.S. soccer history in the system somehow? Can they be coaching these youth teams? Can they be implementing that winning style, but also their knowledge of the game, the tactics? I know Brandi is such a tactic nerd. I talk to her all the time. She has so many ideas of how to implement. They're not my next head coach of the U.S. women's national team, but these are the types of things we want to do as U.S. soccer. We talk about it all the time. Bring players through our system and then give them an opportunity to coach. So let's give them an opportunity to coach. Can we get our 17s, our 20s winning again? Because that is only going to help us succeed at the top level as well.
Jordan, I think we're at an impasse right now, and we've talked about this a bit, where we need someone in this role that is capable of now sort of creating a new identity, probably for generations subsequent to this, for this U.S. women's side. Who do you think is the most poised, in your opinion, and up to task to fulfill that?
That's a good question, Christine, because it's hard to know the personalities of the head coach and how it's going to mesh with this very the U.S. women's national team is a strong team, right? They have an identity within themselves and within the public persona that is can be a difficult thing to manage, and it takes a special person to be able to balance those things and find how to get the best out of them on the pitch while also allowing them to be who they are in the 2023. So I do feel like those candidates, the big two that I named from national teams that are coaching right now, would be great. I think Emma Hayes would be great. I know Laura Harvey has been mentioned a lot and would be interested in this job. I also just want to go back to Laura Harvey was in the youth system and wasn't successful at winning championships in the youth system. Laura Harvey's a great coach, but again, it speaks to my point that this is a difficult task to create this winning culture within kind of a systemic, it has not been working for a little while now when you talk about championships for U.S. soccer.
I think you identify this lack of a common thread through the programs that I think systemically needs to be addressed. So thank you, Jordan.
Jordan, great stuff as always. I'm sure we'll see you back in the studio very soon. Appreciate your time this morning.